The system's rigged, man, it's time to break free. Eyes wide open, gotta see what I see. Standing on the front lines, fighting for the truth. Lift the veil of lies, it's time to be the proof. Take a stand, don't you back down. Raise your voice, let's shake the town. We're the voices that won't be ignored. Breaking chains, yeah, we're ready for war. With the power of the people, we'll make them see a world of justice, united and free. United and free. United and free. Marching with a purpose, we're taking it higher. Fighting through the struggle, igniting the fire. No more silence, we'll make the noise loud. Together in this battle, standing strong and proud. Injustice fades when courage aligns. Rise up together, break the confines. We're the voices that won't be ignored. Breaking chains, yeah, we're ready for war. With the power of the people, we'll make them see a world of justice, united and free. United and free. United and free. So rise up now, it's our time to shine. Together we'll write a new paradigm. You paradigm, you paradigm. Whoa, whoa. We're the voices that won't be ignored. Breaking chains, yeah, we're ready for war. With the power of the people, we'll make them see a world of justice, united and free. United and free. Rise up now, it's our time to shine. United and free. Together we'll write a new paradigm, new paradigm. United and free. United and free. United and free.
All right, everybody, welcome to day one of the Marshella Chidester case. This is the Swan Boat Club crash case. So I wanted to come in here and do a little introduction to the case because this is going to be a little bit of a unique situation. There isn't a live feed that's allowed to be broadcast during the trial. So it's getting recorded and then it's getting allowed to be played afterwards. So this will be an evening trial feed. I think they're doing it because there is kids involved in this. There is going to be pictures of kids involved, and they want to make sure that there's no editing issues or nothing gets out. So I wonder if this is how we'll see, because this is the same, it's not the same court, but it's the same state that the Naziah Harris trial will eventually be had. I wonder if they'll do something similar here, because of course that deals with children as well. Now, there was no problem at the lower court. They aired the preliminary hearing with no problem. We get to trial, and the circuit court judge is a little bit more strict, a little bit different in how he wants things done. So we're gonna respect it. But we've got day one. It's going to be opening statements, a little bit of witness testimony, and we're going to finally get to hear the defense to this. This is almost an indefensible situation to many, but this is one of my dad's specialties. He specialized in DUI cases, and there are so many different ways you can defend a DUI case that many people just can't even think of. One in particular being that You know, in a crash where a death occurs, you actually have to prove that the accident itself was a result of the alcohol. So again, why is that significant in this case? Because she could have been under the influence of alcohol, but if the seizures in her legs kick in and it causes her to wreck the vehicle and it wasn't something that the alcohol was involved with, she could still be found not guilty of the offenses related to being drunk or to having had basically death as a result of driving intoxicated, because you have to prove that the intoxication is what caused the accident. If the accident was unrelated to that, if it was some way manufacture of the road, if it was, in this case, they're planning medical. Now, the other thing that's going to be coming up is they're going to be claiming, at least the defense, this is what came out in pretrial, they're going to be claiming that the police officer who handled the blood vial, which is the main evidence of intoxication, they were asking for it to be suppressed. It's not going to be suppressed, but it's still an issue that's going to be argued to the jury. They're claiming that a preservative that needed to be shook wasn't shaken. And when you don't shake that preservative, allegedly, it concentrates and it can give a false positive for alcohol. Now, there's going to be a wealth of evidence like we heard in the preliminary hearing. I covered the preliminary hearing. We watched it together. And there's a wealth of evidence to show she was drinking earlier that day. She had a reputation for drinking. I mean, this is one of those cases that, in my opinion, I mean, I'm not trying to be biased because I don't like to watch cases in a biased fashion, but the conviction seems to me as assured as the young man who was sentenced today to 45 years in prison. There was no question this kid was going away for prison. It was just a matter of how long. And there's no question this lady's going away. So the question is, for what, right? But I think at the end of the day, I don't think there's a jury in that area that's gonna be seated, because they didn't pick a jury in another county. It's coming right from that county. From my understanding, she's toast. So, anyways, without further ado, check in every night. We're going to be airing this after court hours. So this will be an after court hours stream. Still give it the same workup, but this is one I'm very personally interested in. I've been covering this since day one when I got the alerts that this happened. And I love these cases because it's great to watch, because these are the type of cases that, you know, everyday people can get dragged in the criminal justice system because of this, because we drive a vehicle and there's a responsibility on our part. And it's always an interesting situation when you have a case like this, because there's always a question of intent, right? Some people view this as an intentless crime. She was drunk. How could she formulate intent? Others say she formulated intent when she chose to drink the alcohol and then took responsibility for everything the alcohol brought her. And some cases have gone to the extreme, like Michigan's going in this case with the big M. Some have said they carve out their own laws. Like in West Virginia, there's their own laws that deal with this. DUI with death. They've been enhanced recently in this state. And then there's some that are locking people up for the rest of their life. I covered that at the infancy of this channel. A gentleman who was the first one ever to get a life with no parole for DUI. So, look, this lady has money. She has means. She's been out on bond. So for those of you wondering, she is out on bond. Here we go, guys. Let's jump in. Let's get started. And let's buckle up, because this is going to be a fun one, in the sense of watching how this plays out and hopefully getting some justice for the victims in this case. Because, like I said, I don't want to be biased, but I think we're riding to a conviction here, but we'll see. I don't think she knows it, though. I think she really thinks she can beat this case. And her defense attorney is pretty confident, too. So maybe we'll see. He wasn't very prepared, in my opinion. I was not impressed at all at the suppression hearing when he left the key stuff out in his motions and was absolutely embarrassed by the judge in front of the cameras and the media. So we'll see if more of that happens, or we'll see if this guy, I'm assuming he's a great attorney because she has means and she has money to hire. She did not get appointed counsel. She posted a big bond. So we'll see what happens here and see if this guy comes to trial and brings his A game. Anyways, with that said, guys, appreciate all of you. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, help share this stream, get it out. And with that said, guys, we're going to go jump into that courtroom and get started.
People of the state of Michigan versus Marshella Chidester.
All right, I've told our jury is back. Do we have any other questions? Any other issues?
Yes, Your Honor. May I go forward?
Pardon me?
May I go forward?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Just for the record, Bill told us on behalf of defendant P3434. Your Honor, I believe I may have a stipulation that's pretty codified, and that is the PBT will not be mentioned unless there's some exception with regard to the PBT being admitted. I just wanted to make sure it was on the record that nobody's going to mention that any of the officers or anything.
It's statutory.
So one of those motions to follow the law. Right.
Right.
Okay.
I like those motions.
All right.
Judge. And then next is we had our motion for an amended motion that I had filed. And I would make it on the record with regard to my expert to be able to testify by video. He's testified in federal cases throughout the country ever since COVID, actually. And I know the Supreme Court allows it, or the administration office, whatever allows it. Your Honor, so respectfully, I would request in my amended motion that I be able to have my expert toxicologist be able to testify at trial by video. Thank you.
What's your position, Mr. Warren?
Judge, I don't believe the court has allowed video testimony, particularly in capital cases, since the pandemic concluded. People didn't even consider having their experts testify by Zoom, despite the data that also heavily prefer that.
Do you hang on a second.
I'm sorry.
Do you oppose his motion?
I have to, yes, Judge.
All right.
May I?
I'll give you the last say so. It's your motion.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Within the amended motion, it sets forth when records were received, it also sets forth with regard to my expert that's in his 70s, is a national expert, both medical doctor, and he expounds upon, and I attached it to the motion, that he cannot fly, unfortunately, due to an illness where it will cause, actually, he told me, a blood clot possibly to his brain. And airplane pilots have this where they are mandatory, they have to retire. So he suffers from that, he's unable to drive from Florida. Nobody would be prejudiced by it, and I believe, Your Honor, respectfully, it's more so the defense that when there's a Zoom hearing, we have to consent, or usually we should consent to it for the court to go forward. Here it's our expert, it's a material witness, it is our defense. So respectfully, Your Honor, the courtroom is set up for it, and we would ask, given those circumstances and everything set forth in my amended motion, that we be granted leave to be able to do that.
All right. Well, if the people had no objection, I would grant this. I've not done it in a trial. Cross-examination on Zoom. I've been on Zoom a long time, but never in a trial. Zoom is very hard to have, the social discourse that you need. So the prosecutors opposed to it. They are entitled, as well as the defense is entitled to a fair trial. They're entitled to be able to question their witnesses, test their credibility, those types of things. The fact that he hasn't flown in 20 years. I don't understand how he hasn't flown in 20 years. You hired an expert in Florida who hasn't flown in 20 years, yet it's an emergency motion. It doesn't make sense to me. Certainly, if on Wednesday he'd have gotten the car and driven, he'd be here by now. He still has time to get here. For all those reasons, the motion is denied.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Also, I talked to the prosecutor, Mr. Kemmerer, and he stipulated with regard to the credentials and that CV of another expert that we have down, and it's been filed in court and a copy to Your Honor last week.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, just to clarify, we've stipulated to the CV part, and we haven't stipulated to the expert, or to his ability to testify.
I understood.
Okay.
All right. Let's bring the jury in, please. Well, no, we have one
One
more.
last thing, Judge. People and defense, I think, move for sequestration of all potential witnesses, except as the court rule pertains to experts.
All right, if there's a witness in the courtroom, they are to leave the courtroom immediately, please. Don't see anybody moving. All right, bring in the jury.
I have one additional.
All right.
Thank you, Judge.
Hurry up, because I
It's
just
just
told
a capital offense, that's why I wanted to make a record on this. I don't know if there's any victims that are going to be testifying or not. If they're not, certainly I understand that they're not going to be sequestered. Secondly, that I've learned that when the prosecution, I haven't even had a chance to put it in writing, I will tonight if you want to take it up tomorrow morning, formally by a motion, and that is the prosecution, when this accident happened, I filed an appearance immediately with...
Hang on 1 second, Don, I'm sorry, I jumped the gun.
I filed, thank you, Judge, I filed an appearance with the court, and I filed an appearance with the prosecutor at 9:03 in the morning, immediately after this happened.
Let's get right to the point, okay?
Okay.
What's your issue?
I filed at 9:03. At 3 o'clock, they executed a search warrant. The prosecutor's office knew of my appearance, and I represented. They had ex parte communication in getting a warrant without notifying me.
We're months past that. Months.
Judge, it doesn't mean that the 14th Amendment doesn't apply.
Anything that you want addressed, you need to put in writing, properly press it, and we'll
And so if
address
it's
it.
morally done, you can violate the law. Okay.
All right, bring the jury in, please, Mike. In this one. All right, you may be seated. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you guys being on time. That's really important to keep things moving along. I previously swore you in. I have some of the preliminary instructions to continue to read you when you were in the jury room. You probably saw those. That's what I'm reading now. So there's a copy for each of you in there. At the end of the trial, I'm going to provide you with a copy of my final instructions so that you follow those to use during deliberations. I'm going to explain some of the legal principles you'll need to know in the procedure that will follow in this trial. Elements of the charge. Defendant is charged in count 1 with a murder in the second degree. To prove this charge, the prosecutor must prove each of the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt. That the defendant caused the death of Elena Grace Phillips, that is, that Elena Grace Phillips died as a result of the defendant knowingly creating a very high risk of death or great bodily harm, knowing that death or such harm would be the likely result of her actions, by driving intoxicated or recklessly or under the influence of alcohol and gabapentin. Second, that the defendant had one of 3 states of mind. She intended to kill, or she intended to do great bodily harm to Elena Grace Phillips, or she knowingly created a very high risk of death or great bodily harm, knowing that death or such harm would be likely as a result of her actions. Count 2, murder in the second degree. To prove this, the prosecutor has to prove all the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, the defendant caused the death of Zane Isaac Phillips. That is, Zane Isaac Phillips died as a result of the defendant knowingly creating a very high risk of death or great bodily harm, knowing that death or such harm would be a likely result of her actions, by driving while intoxicated or recklessly or under the influence of alcohol and gabapentin. Second, that the defendant had one of 3 states of mind. she intended to kill, or she intended to do great bodily harm to Zane Isaac Phillips, or she knowingly created a very high risk of death or great bodily harm, knowing that death or such harm would be likely the result of her actions. Count 3, operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated, causing death. To prove this charge, the prosecutor must prove each of the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, the defendant operated a motor vehicle. To operate means to drive or have actual physical control of the vehicle. Second, the defendant operated the vehicle on a highway or other place open to the public or generally accessible to motor vehicles, including any designated parking area. Third, the defendant was intoxicated. That is, the defendant operated the vehicle with a blood alcohol of 0.08 grams or more per 100 milliliters of blood, or operated the vehicle under the influence of alcohol, or that due to the use and consumption of combination of alcohol and gabapentin, an intoxicating substance, the defendant drove with less ability than an ordinary careful driver. The defendant's ability to drive must have been lessened to the point that it would have been noticed by another person. It is the defendant's ability to drive that must be visibly lessened, not the defendant's manner of driving, though evidence of the defendant's manner of driving may be considered as evidence of the defendant's ability to drive. Fourth, the defendant voluntarily decided to drive knowing that she had consumed alcohol or a combination of alcohol or gabapentin, an intoxicating substance, and might be intoxicated. Fifth, that the defendant's operation of the vehicle caused the death of Alana Grace Phillips. To cause the death, the defendant's operation of the vehicle must have been a factual cause of death. That is, but for the defendant's operation of the vehicle, the death would not have occurred. In addition, the death must have been a direct and natural result of operating the vehicle. Count 4, operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated, causing death. To prove this, the prosecutor must prove the following. First, the defendant operated a motor vehicle. To operate means to drive or have actual physical control of the vehicle. Second, the defendant operated the vehicle on a highway or other place open to the public or generally accessible to motor vehicles, including any designated parking area. Third, the defendant was intoxicated. That is, the defendant operated a vehicle with a blood alcohol of 0.08 grams or more per 100 milliliters of blood, or operated the vehicle under the influence of alcohol, or due to the use or consumption or combination of alcohol and gabapentin, an intoxicating substance, the defendant drove with less ability than an ordinary careful driver. The defendant's ability to drive must have been lessened to the point that it would be noticed by another person. It is the defendant's ability to drive that must have been visibly lessened, not the defendant's manner of driving, though evidence of the defendant's manner of driving may be considered as evidence of the defendant's ability to drive. Fourth, the defendant voluntarily decided to drive knowing that she had consumed alcohol or a combination of alcohol, gabapentin, an intoxicating substance, and might be intoxicated. Fifth, the defendant's operation of the vehicle caused the death of Zane Isaac Phillips. To cause death, the defendant's operation of the vehicle must have been a factual cause of death. That is, but for the defendant's operation of the vehicle, the death would not have occurred. In addition, the death must have been a direct and natural result of the operating of the vehicle. Any objection to me summarizing on 5, 6, 7, 8, 9?
Not from the people.
No, Your Honor.
All right. All of the elements are the same. Count 5 is operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated, causing serious impairment of bodily function. As you'll see, all of the elements are the same. Operate the vehicle, the defense of operation, was on a highway or other place open to the public, all of those things. And the final element in this particular case is that the defendant's operation of the vehicle caused a serious impairment of body function to Mariah Lynn Dodds. To create such an injury, the defendant's operation of the vehicle must have been a factual cause of the injury. That is, but for the defendant's operation of the vehicle, the injury would not have occurred. In addition, the injury must have been the direct and natural result of operating the vehicle. Count 6 is operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated, causing serious impairment of bodily function to another person. Again, all of the elements are the same, except in this one, the fifth element, the defendant's operation of the vehicle caused serious impairment of body function to Edward Thomas Smothers. To cause such injury, the defendant's operation of the vehicle must have been the factual cause of the injury. That is, but for the defendant's operation of the vehicle, the injury would not have occurred. In addition, the injury must have been the direct and natural result of operating the vehicle. Count 7, also operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated, causing serious impairment of bodily function. All of the elements are the same, except for element 5, and that pertains to injury caused to Jaden Bryce Phillips. Count 8, operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated, causing serious impairment of bodily function. All of the elements are the same, except for element 5, causing serious impairment of bodily function to Leah Marie Stiff. And then count 9, operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated, causing serious impairment of bodily function. All the elements are the same except element 5, and this one is causing serious impairment of body function to Diane Virginia Medina. A person accused of a crime is presumed to be innocent. This means that you must start with the presumption that the defendant is innocent. This presumption continues throughout the trial and entitles the defendant to a verdict of not guilty unless you are satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt that she is guilty. Every crime is made up of parts called elements. The prosecutor must prove each element of a crime beyond a reasonable doubt. The defendant is not required to prove her innocence or do anything. If you find that the prosecutor has not proven each element beyond a reasonable doubt, then you must find the defendant not guilty. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt is proof that leaves you firmly convinced of the defendant's guilt. A reasonable doubt is a fair, honest doubt growing out of the evidence or lack of evidence. It's not merely an imaginary or a possible doubt, but a doubt based on reason and common sense. A reasonable doubt is just that, a doubt that's reasonable after a careful and considered examination of the facts and circumstances of this case. Trial procedure is as follows. First, the prosecutor makes his opening statement, where he gives his theories about the case. The defendant's lawyer does not have to make an opening statement, but he may if he wants to, or he may wait and make that opening statement later. These statements are not evidence. They're only meant to help you understand how each side views the case. Next, the prosecutor presents his evidence. He does that by calling witnesses to testify and showing you exhibits like photographs or documents. The defense lawyer has the right to cross-examine the prosecutor's witnesses. After the prosecutor has presented his evidence, the defense attorney may also offer evidence, but he is not required to do so. By law, the defendant does not have to prove her innocence or do anything or produce any evidence. If the defense does call a witness, the prosecutor has the right to cross-examine them. The prosecutor may also call witnesses to contradict the testimony of the defense witnesses. After all the evidence has been presented, the prosecutor and defense lawyer will make their closing arguments. Like the opening arguments, these are not evidence. They're merely meant to help you understand the evidence and the way each side sees the case. You must base your verdict only on the evidence. My job as judge in this trial is to make sure the trials run fairly and efficiently, to make decisions about evidence, and to instruct you about the law that applies in this case. You must take the law as I give it to you. Nothing I say is meant to reflect my own opinions about the facts of the case. As jurors, you're the ones who will decide the case. Your responsibility as jurors is to decide what the facts of the case are. That's your job and no one else's. You must think about all the evidence and all the testimony and decide what each piece of evidence means and how important you think it is. This includes how much you believe what each witness says. What you decide about the facts of the case are final. Part of your job in deciding what the facts of the case are is to decide which witnesses you believe and how important you think their testimony is. You don't have to accept or reject everything a witness says. You're free to believe all, none, or part of a witness's testimony. In deciding which testimony you believe, you should rely on your own common sense and everyday experience. However, in deciding whether you believe a person's testimony, you must set aside any bias or prejudice you may have based on a witness's race, national origin, ethnicity, gender identity, or sexual orientation, religion, age, or socioeconomic status. There aren't any fixed rules about judging whether you believe a witness or not, but it might help you to think the following questions. Was the witness able to see and hear clearly? How long was the witness watching and listening? Was anything else going on that might have distracted the witness? Does the witness seem to have a good memory? How does the witness look or act while testifying? Does the witness seem to be making an honest effort to tell the truth, or does the witness seem to evade the questions or argue with the lawyers. Does the witness's age or maturity affect how you judge his or her testimony? Does the witness have any bias or prejudice or any personal interest in how this case is decided? Have there been any promises, threats, suggestions, or other influences that affect how the witness testifies? In general, does the witness have any special reason to tell the truth or any special reason to lie? In general, all in all, how reasonable does the witness's testimony seem when you think about all the other evidence in the case? When it's time for you to decide the case, you're only allowed to consider the evidence that was admitted in the case. Evidence includes the sworn testimony of the witnesses, any exhibits I admit into evidence, and anything else I tell you to consider as evidence. The questions the lawyers asked are not evidence. Only the answers are evidence. You should not think something is true just because one of the lawyers asked a question that assumes or suggests that it is. I could ask a question myself. These questions are not meant to reflect my opinion about the evidence. If I were to ask a question, my only reason is to ask about something I thought maybe wasn't fully explored. During the trial, you may think of an important question that would help you understand the facts. You are allowed to ask such questions. However, there's a very specific procedure for this. You must wait until the witness is finished testifying and both sides have finished their questioning. If you still have an important question, don't ask it yourself. Raise your hand, write the question down, pass it to my bailiff, who will give it to me. Do not show your question to other jurors. If your question isn't asked, it's because I determined under the law it should not be asked. Don't speculate about why the question wasn't asked. In other words, you should draw no conclusions or inferences about the facts of the case, nor should you speculate about what the answer might have been. Also, in considering the evidence, you should not give greater weight to the testimony merely because it was given in answer to questions submitted to members of the jury. If at any time you can't hear something or see something, please raise your hand immediately. During the trial, the lawyers may object to certain questions or statements made by other lawyers or witnesses. I'll rule on these objections according to the law. My rulings for or against one side are not meant to reflect my opinions about the facts of the case. Sometimes the lawyers and I will have to discuss things out of your hearing. Also, while you're in the jury room, I'll have to take care of matters that have to do nothing with this case and it has to do with other cases. Please pay no attention to these interruptions. You must not discuss this case with anyone, including your family or friends. You must not even discuss it with each other until the time comes for you to decide the case. When it is time for you to decide the case, I'll send you back to the jury room for that purpose. Then you should discuss the case only amongst yourselves, but only in the jury room, and only when all jurors are present. You must not talk to the defendant, the lawyers, the witnesses, or anyone connected with this case. This means you may not speak to these individuals, even if it has nothing to do with the case itself. You should be very cautious about speaking to people because you may inadvertently speak to someone connected with this case. This restriction is necessary to avoid even the appearance of an improper conduct on any person's part. If someone tries to discuss the case with you or in your presence, tell them to stop. Explain that you're a juror and you're not allowed to discuss the case. If they continue, leave and report this to my staff as soon as you return to court. When the trial is over, these restrictions no longer apply. So when the trial is over, you may, if you wish, discuss the case with anyone. During the trial, do not read, listen to, or watch any news reports about the case. Under the law, evidence you consider to decide must meet certain standards. For example, witnesses swear to tell the truth. The lawyers must be able to cross-examine them. Because news reports do not meet these standards, they could give you an incorrect or misleading information that might unfairly favor one side or the other. So to be fair to both sides, you must follow this instruction. The restrictions I'm about to describe to you are meant to ensure the parties get a fair trial. In our judicial system, it's crucial that jurors are not influenced by anything or anyone outside the courtroom. Under the law, the evidence you consider must meet certain standards. As I said before, witnesses swear to tell the truth. The lawyers are able to cross-examine them. Because information outside the courtroom doesn't have these same safeguards, it could give you an incorrect or misleading information that might unfavorably favor one side or the other. These restrictions start now and continue until I discharge you from jury service. It is your duty as a juror to decide this case based solely on the evidence you see and hear in this courtroom. You must not consider information that comes from anywhere else. This means until you deliver your verdict, you must not read, watch, listen to, or receive any information, including opinions or commentary about this case, whether in newspapers, television, radio, internet, or on social media platforms. You must not research any aspect of this case during the trial. This means research regarding your cell phone, computer, or other electronic device to search the internet, as well as research with traditional resources like dictionaries, reference manuals, newspapers, or magazines. Excuse me. You must not investigate this case on your own or conduct any experiments concerning the case, including experiments using those items I mentioned. You must not visit the scene of any event that took place in this trial. If it was necessary for you to view the scene, the court staff would take you there as a group under court supervision. You must not consider as evidence any personal knowledge you have of the scene. You must not share any information about the case by any means, including cell phones or social media. This means even if you're not discussing the case with someone else, you may not post any information about the case on social media websites or in any other manner. If you discover that a juror has violated my instructions, please report it to the court staff. You may take notes during the trial if you wish, but you don't have to. If you do take notes, you should be careful that it doesn't distract you from paying attention to all the evidence. When you go to the jury room to decide your verdict, you may use your notes to help you remember what happened in the courtroom. If you do take notes, don't let anyone except the other jurors see them, and only during deliberations. Your notes will not be examined by anyone else, and when your jury service concludes, your notes will be collected and destroyed. You can see that we've chosen a jury of 14. After you've heard all the evidence and my instructions, we'll draw lots to decide which two of you will be dismissed to form a jury of 12. Possible penalties should not influence your decision. If you find the defendant guilty, it's the duty of the judge to fix the penalty within the limits provided by law. I may give you more instructions during the trial, and after all of the evidence is entered and you hear the lawyer's closing arguments, I will give you additional instructions about the rules of law that apply in this case. You should consider all of my instructions a connected series. Taken together, they are the law that you must follow. After my final instructions, you'll go to the jury room to decide your verdict. A verdict must be unanimous. That means every juror must agree on it, and it must reflect the individual decision of each juror. It's important for you to keep an open mind and not make a decision about anything in this case until you go to the jury room to decide the case. You must not let bias, prejudice, public opinion influence your decision. Each of us has biases or perceptions that about other people based on stereotypes. We may be aware of some of our biases, though we don't express them. We may not be fully aware of some of our other biases. Take the time you need to test what might be automatic or instinctive judgments and to reflect carefully about the evidence. I caution you again to avoid reaching conclusions that might have been unintentionally influenced by stereotypes. You must reach your own conclusions about this case individually, but you should do so only after listening and considering the opinions of other jurors who may have different backgrounds and perspectives from yours. That concludes our initial instructions. You ready for your opening statement?
You go on. Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Last year, on April 20th, a young mother named Kristin Sigler threw a birthday party for her 3-year-old son, Stetson. Like many mothers, Kristin went all out for the party. She had a face painting station, a hot dog bar, entertainers, props and backdrops for photos, and even a bounce house outside of the party. Kristin has worked for several years at the Swan Boat Club in Berlin Township, Newport, state of Michigan, right on Lake Erie. She used the club's event space to hold the party. The party started at noon, and by a little before 3 p.m., the party guests had just finished singing happy birthday to the guest of honor. By all accounts, it was a very successful party, was well attended, and the kids there were taking advantage of all the attractions. However, at the same time, less than 2 football fields away at her home, the defendant was leaving, pulling out onto Branchall Road. She was also headed to the boat club. Both of these events are memorialized on camera. The party was captured on the Swan Boat Club security cameras, and the defendant on a home camera mounted above her garage building across the street. Mariah Dodds, a longtime friend of Kristin's, and her 3 children, Jaden, Zane, and Alana Phillips, had just sat down at a table to enjoy their lunch from the party's hot dog bar. As they were beginning their meal, the defendant backed out of her driveway, accelerated her car in an arc out of her driveway, crashing into a small tree and then into her neighbor's full-size pickup truck, forcing it through a wooden fence. The defendant then places her car in drive and speeds off toward the boat club, just 4 houses down. As Mariah grabs cake pops at the dessert station for her kids, the defendant barrels at full speed down Branchall Road and makes a right turn into the club parking lot. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ken Lorraine. I'm an assistant prosecutor for the County of Monroe. Along with my fellow assistant prosecutors, Christopher Marriott and Alexis Hatch, we will prove to you over the course of the next several days that defendant's actions in this case make her guilty of the charges of second-degree murder for Zane and Alana Phillips, OWI causing death for Zane and Alana Phillips, and OWI causing serious impairment of a body function for Zane and Alana's mom, Mariah, their brother, Jaden, and for Ed Smothers, Leah Stith, and Diane Medina. I don't particularly like long and winding opening statements. I like to give the jury what I would want if I were a juror. A roadmap, a table of contents to what the prosecution will present to you over the course of the trial. To simplify things for you folks, basically the way we're going to present this is you're going to hear from our witnesses in 4 groups. The first group will be guests and boat club members at the party. They'll talk about the party, they'll talk about the crash, and to some degree, they'll talk about what they saw of the defendant. Some of them will help us show you video of the crash and its aftermath. Some of them will simply tell you what they saw and what they remember, or what they don't remember, and they'll tell you what they went through. You will not hear from all of them. By most accounts, there were some 80 people in and out of the party through the course of the day, and several others that just wandered over from the boat club proper after the crash. The second group you will hear from is the first responders, the captain of the Frenchtown Fire Department, and many members of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. They arrived on scene shortly after the crash. They will give you more information about the crash, its results, and the steps they took to investigate it. Again, you won't hear from all of them. Law enforcement officers from at least 4 agencies were on scene, as were multiple fire departments, ambulance companies, and 2 life flight helicopters. You will hear the stories from the witnesses we call and see some of the footage from their body-worn cameras. Through that medium, you will also hear from the defendant. Next, we're going to call a group of witnesses that are necessary under the rules of evidence for you to hear about what was in the defendant's blood when she crashed your car. As I spoke about a little bit in voir dire, the rules of evidence are sometimes strict and not always straightforward, but they are important to ensure a fair trial both for the defendant and for the victims. Finally, you'll hear from some of the surviving victims. Mariah, Edward, Leah, and Diane will tell you what they can remember from the crash, about their injuries, and somewhat about their road to recovery. Before I conclude, I want to speak just briefly about the jury instructions that the judge highlighted and give you a sense of what the people think you should be watching for over the course of the next few days. if we could bring up the, you don't have to be able to entirely read this, you'll get it printed out at the end of the trial. But just roughly, as to the 5 counts, counts 4 through 9, of OWI causing serious impairment of a body function, we have to prove that the defendant voluntarily operated her vehicle, that she did so in a parking lot or a place accessible to the general public, and that while she was operating it, she was either legally intoxicated, which is what we all hear about when we think of drunk driving, that she was a .08 or higher, or that she was under the influence of alcohol. In other words, I could think of a 90-pound, 25-year-old woman who I could give 1 glass of wine to. She could be at a .04, but just be drunk out of her mind. So it's not always just a .08. That's the legal limit. And we consider if you're over a .08, regardless of how you feel, you're legally intoxicated. But it is possible for you to find intoxication under a .08. Or we can prove that she was impaired by the consumption of alcohol and the consumption of a intoxicating substance called gabapentin. And that in doing this, in driving, after ingesting these substances, she caused a serious injury to one of those 5 victims. Similarly, the 2 counts of operating while intoxicated causing death, the deaths of Zane and Alana Phillips. The beginning part of the jury instruction is the same. We have to prove the operation, its voluntariness, its location, and its intoxication. But in this, we also have to prove that due to the operation, she was the factual and proximate cause of the death of these 2 children. As to the people's first 2 counts, the counts at the top of the complaint, 2 counts of murder in the 2nd degree, the people will prove that the defendant's actions caused the death of Zane and caused the death of Alana, and that she had one of 3 states of mind. That is to say, what was her legal intent? We must show that she intended to kill, or she intended to cause great bodily harm. In other words, she drove through the boat club wall intending to kill someone, or intending to seriously harm someone. Or the 3rd state of mind, that she knowingly created a very high risk of death or great bodily harm by her actions, knowing that death or great bodily harm was the likely result of what she did. Intent is what is in a person's mind when they commit an act. It's what they are thinking when they act. The jury instruction will tell you that you determine someone's intent from what they said, what they did, and how they did it. It will also tell you that you can use any other facts or circumstances in the case to determine a defendant's intent. These are some of the things to look out for over the course of the next few days. At the conclusion of the trial, I'm going to stand back up here again, and we're going to go over a lot of the evidence. And the people will contend that on behalf of the victims, and on behalf of the people of the state of Michigan, that you should find the defendant guilty of 2 counts of 2nd-degree murder, 2 counts of OWI causing death, and 5 counts of OWI causing serious impairment of a body function. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Mr. White. Would you like to make your opening statement now or later?
Now, Your Honor. Thank you.
There's no question. This is very, very sad of what took place. Very sad. There's nothing nice or near nice of the events that took place, and 2 children died and people were injured. There's nothing. But what this case is about, bless you, what this case is about is, was there an intent to kill someone? Was there an intent to be reckless? And I'll come back at closing argument, we call it, where we get to talk to you one more time. So we don't talk to you at all during the case, but then we're allowed by the judge to do closing arguments, and we try to put it together. Certainly, I can tell you by, we look at the police reports and things like that, and we had 1 or 2 hearings, so we know a little bit of ahead of time. It's like sort of, I don't mean to make light of it, but sort of a little bit like the coming attractions on a movie, whatever. So that's why we sometimes stand up here and we talk. It's not because we read minds. We have a good idea of the facts, at least how we interpret it. I, again, can't stress to you, and I'm very sincere, I can't stress to you how important this case is for everybody. It's for everybody. And for everybody to be able to move on. And I stand before you with a lot on my shoulders because I represent Marshella Chidester. She can't get up as a lawyer and do her case, okay? So I have a lot on my shoulders, and I welcome it. I can pick and choose at this age which case I want to do. And this, she needed somebody to come forward. And sometimes, and I have a lot of respect for news organizations, certainly, but sometimes it's just a snapshot or a conclusion, or maybe near World War II yellow journalism or whatever, or something to do whatever. But this trial, all of you sit back, attentive, all of you are back, and you'll be able to listen to all the testimony. What an honor to serve on a jury to begin with in America, but to this magnitude. You can really, you're serving on a jury. You are doing a job that probably, if it was another case, I wouldn't look forward to. Because you're going to make a decision during these trial of credibility, who to believe, who not to believe, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, and that's what I want you to do. That's what we want you to do. So the proofs, we believe, are going to show this. And I don't have to make an opening argument. I can waive it completely or wait till the defense goes on. But I choose to stand right up because the plaintiff, the prosecutor, made a good opening argument. He made a good argument. The proofs, I believe, are going to show that you're going to get to know a little bit of Marshella Chidester through possibly people that are going to come in. That she was in the military at 18 years old. That she served 4 years in the Army, the real Army. I'm not talking about something up north, and I don't knock that at all, but she was serving. She was serving. And you're going to get to know about her life through people, and that she's never been pulled over for a ticket in her life. She's a better driver than me. And she's never had a ticket to even get pulled over for in her 50-some years. We believe the proofs will show her credibility, and that's what this is. This case, like a lot of cases, are about credibility. And that she was an excellent driver. I believe the proofs will show, I know the proofs will show, that she suffered from seizures and neuropathy. And it wasn't something, the proofs will show, that is just made up that day. She had been going through it, the proofs will show, for a long time. A long time. And was treated at U of M, Cornwell, Beaumont, whatever name it goes by today, on 4th Street in Trenton. There'll be proofs on this. And it also showed that it didn't happen all the way that she had these seizures all the time. It'd be pretty rare. But when she had one, it was not good. I think the proofs will show that when she has a seizure, documented. Her feet go down, like real hard, the proofs will show, and her hands too. And then after less than a minute, the proofs will show that it relaxes again and you're a little bit spaced out. And for up to an hour. The proofs will show on our side of the table that when you see the videos, and normally I'm not nuts about videos, but when you see the videos that they believe will fully support, it'll support a vehicle being put to the floor from her house to go 450 feet. Put to the floor. Metal to pedal to metal, whatever. Put to the floor. The proofs will show such that going on is out of character completely. Out of character completely. Something happened. And we believe the proofs will show, you keep an open mind, please, will show that's exactly what the proofs will show, is that the feet go down. And you do, when I was growing up, it was called a hole spot. You punch it right to the floor. I never did that, but it was like drag racing back when I was growing up. And just took off in a gravel place. And the cameras catch this vehicle just taking off and going right there. The proofs will show. She won't drive that way. She's been driving a long time, 50, 55 years. The proofs will show that when this happened, and it's horrible, that the vehicle went in 25 feet into the building. Horrible as a birthday party. I've had children. I know. Couldn't imagine it. The proofs will show that when she was honest with them, because you look for other evidence for credibility, corroborating evidence, the proofs will show that she said, they say, what's going on? Police arrived. That I had one glass of wine. Well, police hear that, I'm sure, a lot. I've only had one or two, and they get arrested for drunk driving. So where were you? At Vernus. And the police immediately do their job, which is wonderful. Here's a defense attorney telling you, great, you did a great job. They went down there, they masked it off, whatever, taped it off, whatever. It's a criminal place. You were there at lunch. You paid by credit card, debit card, whatever. They get it with a subpoena. They talk to the lady first that works there, Kelly Thornton. I subpoenaed her to be here for the trial. And she says that, I know, Marshella and Don, her husband, and there was another couple that was here, but Don wasn't here. She had one glass of wine, and she had some soup and a sandwich or fish or something. They get the subpoena, she does a copy of it, and we'll have it as evidence. I'm not making it up. And it'll show she had one glass of wine. Exactly. So the proofs will show, I think, credibility-wise, exactly what she said before anybody went anywhere. She said, I had a glass of wine. And the lady that comes in, the proofs will show she didn't finish it. There was still some in it. And she packed it up, the food, and for her to take home. And she just lives not far at all from it. I'm very happy the police moved on it right away, because so many people sometimes say, officer, I only had one or two drinks. The proofs will show it was less than one. And the proofs will show that the officer asked her, what was her condition? It was fine. Okay. The proofs will show that she has this neuropathy, and when she walks, I'm going to have her walk in front of you. When she walks, the proofs will show she walks like this. Now, if I see somebody coming out of a porch or going to the car walking like this, I'm thinking somebody's, keep it clean, somebody's messed up. Okay? Somebody's been doing some drugs or alcohol. Unless you know the person from before. Never met him before, never met her before. She never gets pulled over, ever. So, here we go with a snap judgment. The proofs will show This person's got to be drunk out of their mind. So the proofs will show that the accident happened, of course. And the officers came up to her, the proofs will show. We expect the proofs to show. Then when they came up, they started talking to her. This was right after the accident. Somebody got her out of the car and she was sitting there. I think she got like an American scarf flag or something sitting there. She was a former Commodore. Never had any problems, ever. So the officers will talk and they'll bring in some video on that because we had a hearing. They showed some video on that. The proofs will show that they're talking to her. If anybody's been around with our life experiences, the proofs will show somebody's slurring, somebody's looks a little drunk, even a little bit. The proofs will show that she's speaking probably better than me, more clear than me. And that's up to you to see. I'm not making it up. The proofs will show that. Crystal clear. Now, she was just in a collision, had an attack, then went 25 feet into a building, and they're going to start interviewing her. The proofs will show that event, she talked about it's one glass of wine, truthful, and then they asked her, on a score of 1 to 10, the proofs will show, how intoxicated are you? Well, she's in another zone, going through a wall 25 miles an hour and having an attack. And then they ask her, well, are you able to drive? Well, hello. The proofs will show, am I able to drive? I just crashed into a building. So, the judge will, a lot of people say, don't leave your common sense out there when you're serving as a jury. You've got life experiences. Keep that with you. Don't let that out. Don't be sterile. You can bring life experiences in. You just can't make up your mind until all the proofs are in one way or another and deliberate and respect each other. The proofs will show that it's almost like an immediate conclusion on the police department, and I have great respect for the police. I have relatives police. The proofs will show that they got a search warrant and wanted to get blood from her. She had no problem if you want to do a blow breathalyzer or whatever. They didn't ask her. We want to do blood. And she even signed a consent form. Didn't even need whatever. She's not hiding anything. There's nothing to hide. That they took the blood. They had it tested. We're going to get into all that. Not right now, of course, because I'm trying to somewhat keep it short. But there's a lot that's going to be covered because this didn't happen in a minute. It was a lot longer than a minute. And it's been a year. And this trial is going to be a few days long. So that's why I wanted to jump in and let you know at least where the defense is coming from so you can have it in the back of your mind and say, hopefully Mr. Clovis, Bill Clovis, let's see what he's talking about. Will this go together? Like he says. I feel very confident. I'm not going to over feel confident, but I feel confident that the proofs will show what I just said, what I've represented to you. I'm pretty strong on my representations, or else I don't make it. The proofs will show that she always was cooperative. She was always crystal clear. The proofs will show that when they asked her to do a sobriety test of the alphabet, I'm talking about at the scene, she was able to do the alphabet. Perfect. No slurring. Perfect. Not skip anything, not say double, not miss it, not end early. That's another something to look at. Is that somebody, if you're going to say that they're so heavily intoxicated, and people don't know where they're at, what day it is, or what time. This person's saying the alphabet, talking almost like you and I. These are things I want you to keep in mind. Why am I hitting this so hard? And I'm sure the judge is looking at me right now, with all due respect, saying you're taking a long time. Because I got 2 counts of murder, too, on my client. That's why. It's called a capital offense. This isn't playing a little game. 2 counts of capital murder. Murder 2, and all the other offenses. That's why. And I've taken it very personal because I want to see what's done right. And I respect each and every one of you, and especially when you're watching this. And it's a long time to be trapped in a seat that's not comfortable. And we appreciate it. We thank you in advance. Please wait till all the evidence is in. They get to go first. I bite my lip, like I said earlier, till we get to put up any proofs. Please don't do a knee-jerk reaction and wait till all the proofs are in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. First witness. Thank you, Judge.
People call Kristin Sigler.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Ma'am, right this way. Watch your step. I got the chair.
Thank you.
Make sure the chair doesn't roll off there.
If you would state your name, spell your last name, please.
Kristin Sigler, first name Kristyn, last name Sigler, Sigler.
Thank you. Mr. Warren.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Sigler, how do you know about the Swan Boat Club?
I worked there since about 2018. My sister is also a member there.
In what capacity did you work there?
I was one of the head bartenders for about 5 years. It was a seasonal job, so in the slower months we didn't work as much, but then in the summer it's a full-time job again.
Through that end, did you plan a birthday for your party, or a birthday party for your son at the boat club?
I did. His third birthday, I rented the pavilion area.
And when you say the pavilion, what does that include?
So there's a main building, which is the boat club and the bar, and then there's what we call a breezeway, which is basically like a garage door entryway to another building that private parties are hosted or other functions.
And do you refer to the building as the pavilion, or the area out back as the pavilion?
The building itself.
Ms. Sigler, I'm just going to show you this just to make life easier.
You're going to stand up, or is it going to be on there?
It could be on there too, but just so you've seen it.
Okay.
Yeah. Does this look familiar?
Yes.
What is this property?
The parking lot area and the pavilion of the boat club.
Okay. This has been marked as People's 9K. Ms. Sigler, is this a fair and accurate representation of an overhead view of the property where you worked for some 6 years?
Yes.
Okay. People would move for the admission of 9K.
Response? No objection. People's 9K is admitted.
And I'm just going to leave this here for the jury to have something to understand when you're talking about locations and things like that. Could we bring 9K up? Sure. Thanks. So, Ms. Sigler, when you say the pavilion, can you see that okay? Mm-hmm. Or should I hold the...
No, I can see that.
So the dirt area, is that the Swan Club parking lot?
Yes.
And then the two buildings right there on the water.
So the one on the right with like a slide-in playground area behind it is the pavilion, and the area to the left is the main building.
And when you reference a breezeway, what structure are you referring to?
It's kind of hard to see, but where that little white door is in between, there's like a connecting...
So there's a small structure that connects the two buildings?
Yes.
So you rented the building on the right for your son's birthday party?
Yes.
And that was on April 20th, 2024?
Yes.
And that was in Berlin Township, Newport, state of Michigan?
Yes.
What time was the party scheduled to begin?
It was from 1 to 4.
How many guests were invited?
Around 70.
How many turned out?
At least 50. Some people came a little bit earlier and had to leave. Some people came a little bit later.
Okay. Are you familiar with Mariah Dodds?
Yes, I am.
How are you familiar with her?
We have been best friends since we were 5.
Okay. Are you familiar with her children?
Yes, they're my godchildren.
Was Mariah invited to the party?
Yes, she was.
How about her children?
Yes.
Do you recall what time they arrived?
I think it was a little after 2 because they were running late.
Okay. What about Ed Smothers? Are you familiar with him?
Yes, that's
Oh.
Mariah's nephew. I also, knowing them since I was 5,
Okay.
I just consider him one of my nephews. He's not blood though.
And how about Diane Medina?
She's a friend.
Okay. Is she also a member of the Swan Boat Club?
She is a member of the Swan Boat Club.
Okay. And how about Leah Stiff?
That is my niece,
Okay. Your blood niece?
my sister's stepdaughter.
Okay. So the party began at 1. Is that correct?
Yep.
And Mariah and her children arrive around 2 p.m. Is that correct?
Yep.
So you have to answer yes.
I'm sorry.
or no.
Yes.
And you can't just nod your head because they're recording it.
Okay.
I know it's hard, but okay.
Yep.
Thank you. So approaching 3 a.m. or 3 p.m., what was happening at the party?
We had just got done singing Happy Birthday. It was around 2:40, 2:45. We sang Happy Birthday. And the entertainers were going to be leaving, so I told everybody just to continue to play, and that there were little cake pops instead of real cake, so just grab one of those and continue playing. I didn't really have a sit-down dinner, you know, it was just kind of buffet style, eat as you go. So we had just got done singing Happy Birthday and everybody was just back to enjoying the party.
Okay. And did you go outside at some point on the phone?
I did. I received a phone call from my friend Amy because her children and her husband were there, but she couldn't make it. So I was FaceTiming her just to show her everything and catch up with her for a minute.
Okay. Did anything out of the ordinary happen then?
Yeah, there was very loud, what sounded like a bomb. And I was right by the door, so I ran in, and it looked like a bomb at that point. I didn't know what happened. There was just my son and his cousins right in the doorway. And so I got them outside, and there was just debris everywhere.
Was there dust in the air? Was it hard to see?
Yes, there was a lot of dust still floating around. Some lights were flashing.
After you got your son and the other children outside, what did you do then?
I went back in and found Diane Medina and my niece Leah on the ground. So I started picking the debris up off of them and trying to help with them.
What happened then?
Then I seen one of the little girls got put on top of the bar because she was thrown behind it. And so I got her off the bar and set her down next to somebody that she knew. And then I seen Marshella coming around the side of her car.
Well, let's hold on and back up. So where are the little girl and Diane and Leah, where are they in relationship to the vehicle?
The vehicle was pushed all the way in front of them, so when I came in the back door, immediately Leah was on the ground, then Diane Medina. The car was shoved up, and the little girl, after I started pulling stuff off, she got set on top of the bar, like right in front of me kind of, so I took her off.
And so at this time, you're inside the event space. What is the tenor inside? What's it like? Is it completely silent? Is
Oh, no. There was screaming, yelling. I accidentally stepped on Diane when I was trying to help her, so we were trying to maneuver around people without hurting them. Yeah, it was just chaos.
So you indicated at one point you saw the defendant.
Yes.
Did you know the defendant prior to this?
Yes.
How did you know her?
She comes into the Swan Boat Club where I worked.
Okay. Do you see the defendant in the courtroom here today?
I do.
Could you point her out for the jury? And
The record should reflect the witnesses identified the defendant.
thank you, Judge. After you saw the defendant, what happened?
I went over to her. I was kind of already right there, so I was at the back of her car. She was being walked around the back of her car, and I grabbed her. And then I realized that it was a car that was in front of me, because before I didn't realize it was a car. I just seen a big mess. And so when we got to the back of her car, I grabbed her and I started yelling at her. And somebody yelled, "There's a kid under the car." So I told her to pop her trunk so we could get a jack. She popped the trunk. I started looking for the jack. She came like kind of back over towards me. I grabbed her again and was yelling at her kind of close to her face, and she said, "Tweety, where's Don?" Which Tweety is my nickname, and Don is her husband. So at that point, her talking to me, I could smell alcohol on her. I kind of realized like she just drove her car into the building. So at that point, I told her just to get the F away from me, and I threw her down.
Okay. You testified just a moment ago that at some point people started yelling, "There's a kid under the car." What did you do as it related to that?
Well, I looked for the jack for a minute, and a bunch of the guys that were at the party grabbed 2x4s or 2x6s that were on the ground and just said, "On the count of 3, we're gonna lift. We need you to go under." So once they lifted, I seen Zane. He was underneath the driver's side wheel well of the car, and he was reaching out. So when they lifted, I got underneath it and pulled him out, and it felt like for 5 minutes, but it was just a few seconds. I put him on my lap, and the back of his head was bleeding. And his arm was just kind of limp and all bloody, and he had blood on his shirt and his face. But I asked him if he knew who he was, and he said, "Yeah, Zane." And I said, "You know who I am?" He said, "Yes, God, Mom." And then somebody yelled, "Tweety, there's another." So I handed Zane to my sister and tried to go back under for Alana, but I couldn't reach her, and the car started slipping, so they told me to come back out.
And what did you do then, Kristin?
I followed behind my sister. She was carrying Zane outside, and I followed behind her and told her just to keep talking to him, and that I had to go try to get Alana from the other side, which was the breezeway.
And what did you see when you got to the breezeway?
In the door frame, Alana was wedged in between it. But she was already gone. She was blue and discolored. And Edward, which is her cousin, was laying in front of her, and her mom was laid up against the wall a few feet away from them.
So what did you do then while you were in the breezeway?
I tried to shield Mariah from seeing Alana, and I made eye contact with Edward and told him just to keep looking straight, told Mariah to keep looking straight. And then the sirens, I could hear the sirens, so I told them that I had to go get help. And both of them asked me not to leave them, but I knew that I needed first responders, I needed somebody. So I ran out, and the first EMS workers stopped right in front of Zane and my sister and started helping with him, and then I directed them to where Mariah was. But then they wouldn't let me in either area anymore.
Okay. So that was kind of all you saw of what went on that day, at least firsthand. All right. I don't have any further questions for this witness, Judge.
Cross. All right, will this witness be excused?
For now, Judge, we'd ask her to remain as a potential rebuttal witness.
All right.
So she's free to leave for today.
But she can't be in the
still
court.
active.
All right, thank you. Next witness.
Your Honor, people call William Paul Schmidt.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Sir, watch your step.
If you would state your name and spell your last name for us, please.
My name is William Paul Schmidt. That's S-C-H-M-I-D-T.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Schmidt, where do you live?
I live at 6288 Branshaw.
Where is that in relationship to the Swan Boat Club?
I'm directly next door to it.
I'm going to show you what is up on the screen is People's Exhibit 9K. Is that your house right there, this blue house directly next to the boat club?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And were you living there on April 20th of 2024?
I was.
And do you know Marshella Chidester?
I do.
How do you know Miss Chidester?
I've known her family pretty much all my life.
And do you know where she lives in relation to the boat club?
I do.
Where does she live?
Approximately 4 houses down.
In which direction? Towards the boat club or past the boat club? Or
On your way to the boat club, it would be the house just a little down the road across the street from the red barn. See that barn that's sitting out there far in the road?
This barn right here.
That's her barn.
Her house is the
across
one
street.
directly across the street. This
Correct.
house here.
Yes,
Okay.
I believe so.
And were you home on April 20th of 2024?
Yes, I was.
And did something draw your attention to the boat club on that day?
Yes, it was a huge sound, pretty much. We heard like something like an explosion and saw kids running around.
And do you know approximately what time that would have been?
About 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
And what did you do when you heard that big sound?
I went to investigate it. There were some kids that used to tear up the parking lot, and I thought maybe it was them. So I wanted to make sure that at least I got it on video and tried to stop them from leaving the scene if it was them.
And what did you see?
I saw a hole in the side of the boat club.
And when you saw that hole, what did you do?
I turned my cell phone on and started recording so I can get evidence for the police, and basically so they can figure out what the heck happened there.
So when you turned your cell phone on, you saw the hole, but you had not entered yet.
I have not entered the hole.
Okay. And did you enter the boat club at some point?
Yes.
How did you enter the boat club?
Through the hole.
What did you see when you entered the hole in the boat club?
Oh, it looked like a war zone. People were laying everywhere, mostly unconscious. The whole side of the building was pushed to the corner of the building.
And you were recording this on your cell phone while this was going on?
Yes, I had a cell phone in front of me as I was walking through the room.
And did you provide a copy of that recording to law enforcement?
Yes,
Have you reviewed that cell phone recording?
I have.
And is it a fair and accurate depiction of what you saw on that day?
Yes,
Do you also have video surveillance on your home?
I do.
How many cameras do you have outside your home?
I had 4 at that time.
At 4 at that time. And where were they located on your home?
They're located on the corners of the house, one in the southeast corner, one in the northeast corner, one at the front door, and one in the garage.
Do any of them face the Swan Boat Club or the road in front of your home?
Yes, the one in the northeast corner faces towards the boat club and their parking lot.
How long have you had this system?
Oh, about 6 years.
And who maintains it?
I do.
And on April 20th of 2024, was it in good working order to your knowledge?
Yes.
All right. Did you review that recording as well around the time of the crash?
Yes,
And you provided a copy of that to law enforcement as well?
I did.
At this time, Judge, the people are moved to admit Exhibits 1 and 2, that is the cell phone recording and the home surveillance video recording of Mr. Schmidt.
Response.
I haven't seen it play. He said that they wanted to stipulate to a report. I don't know what, I mean,
Are you gonna play him?
I can proffer him, Judge. Yes, I was intending to anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
I was gonna just hold off for that, Judge, until they play me.
Please play Exhibit 1.
You see, okay?
Mr. Schmidt, that is your home surveillance camera?
Yes, it is.
All right. People would again move to admit Exhibit 1, Judge.
No, Judge. People's 1 is admitted?
Provide a copy of that to the court. Please play Exhibit 2. Mr. Schmidt, is that the cell phone video you referred to?
Yes.
People move to admit Exhibit 2.
No objection.
Pledge 2 is admitted.
Mr. Schmidt, do you see Marshella in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you please point to her and describe what she's wearing?
She's right there.
The record should reflect the defendant, or I'm sorry, the witness identified the defendant.
I have no further questions, Judge. Thank you.
Cross? I don't have any questions. All right. May this witness be excused?
Yes, Judge.
Totally excused.
For the people, Judge, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next witness.
Judge, people call Jason Johnson.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes. Sir.
Watch your step. Make sure that you
Sir, would you state your name and spell your last name, please?
Jason Johnson, Johnsson.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson.
Afternoon.
Mr. Johnson, could you tell the jury what your affiliation with the Swan Boat Club is?
Longtime member of Swan,
Okay. How long?
over 20 years.
Okay. Were you formerly in a leadership position at the
I
Swan
was.
Boat Club? What was the name of that position?
Rear Commodore.
So what does a Commodore and a Rear Commodore do at the Swan Boat Club?
Commodore oversees the entire club. The rear manages the club itself.
The physical,
Maintenance, bar.
the physical building.
Correct.
Are you familiar with the club itself and the surrounding area?
Yes, I am.
Are you a resident of the surrounding area?
I am.
How long have you lived there?
I believe 7 years now.
So this is an area right off of Lake Erie, is that correct?
Correct.
What is the nature of the neighborhood and the roads and things like that?
Country road, gravel, private, so it's maintained by the residents, and fish and wildlife.
Okay. What's your understanding of what the speed limit is on those roads?
County says it's 25, Fish and Wildlife says it's 15.
Okay. How is it to drive on those roads?
It's a little rough.
Okay. Do you have to use care and caution?
Yes.
How fast would you say it's safe to drive on those roads?
Under 20 for sure.
In your position as Rear Commodore and then just as a member of the Swan Boat Club, are you familiar with the security system at the club?
Yes, I am.
And just explain to the jury kind of what the club has as security systems go.
We have several cameras. I believe there's 9 operational. Different views of the club, inside and out,
Okay,
including the lake.
Is that continuous recording or motion activated?
Continuous.
And is there a camera that faces, suppose it would be west into the parking lot?
Yes.
And that's mounted on what members call the pavilion or the event space?
Correct.
And is there a camera within the pavilion, within the event space?
Yes, above the bar space.
Okay, and is that point the opposite direction of the camera in the parking lot?
Correct.
So to the east?
Correct.
And then the hall east of the event space, what we've heard referred to as the breezeway, is there a camera there?
Yes.
And which way does that camera
The
face?
same way as the bar camera.
So does this look familiar to you, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, it's overhead view of the boat club.
Okay. And is that a fair and accurate representation of the boat club from overhead?
Yes.
And this is marked People's Exhibit 9A. People would move for admission.
Final objection, Your Honor. 9A is admitted.
Do we have this in the PowerPoint?
No, we didn't.
Are you able to see this at all
Yes.
from there? So
Would it be fair to say that the camera in the parking lot is positioned roughly there?
It's on that corner of that building right there.
Okay, and then where would the field of view from that camera be?
Pointing at the white SUV and at the fire truck.
So out this way?
Correct.
And then describe on this photo, if you could, where the cameras on the bar and the camera on the breezeway are.
The camera in the bar is right at the two different pieces of concrete, just inside.
Sure.
Yeah. This is the camera from the outside. The inside camera is roughly about right here.
Okay.
The breezeway camera is roughly about right here.
Okay.
Both facing that direction.
Both of the interior cameras face this way?
Correct.
Were you present at the club on April 20th when this happened?
I was not present at the time of the accident, shortly after.
About what time did you arrive?
I believe it was under 20 minutes after the incident.
And did you do anything in regards to law enforcement's investigation that day?
Yeah, I had access to the cameras, so I got the detective in the room and got him into the system.
Okay, were you able to assist them in making recordings of the surveillance footage?
Yes.
And that system, that was in good working order on April 20th?
Correct.
And you were able to check it to make sure it was in good working order?
Correct.
And was the timestamp on it correct?
Yes.
Did you check that as you were making the copies?
Yes.
So, Judge, at this time, people would move to admit people's 3A, B, and C, which are clips of surveillance video from the 3 cameras we've spoken about at the Swan Boat Club at the time of the crash.
Response, if I may, they haven't been shown yet, am I correct?
So the way I do an exhibit, and the way I've asked Mr. Marriott and Ms. Hatch to, is offer it, get it admitted, and then proffer it. Because if we proffer it and it's not admitted, the cat's kind of out of the bag.
Okay, but I don't know what it is that you're doing, but.
Just go ahead and show it, Mr. Wayne.
Yeah.
Fair enough. If we could play 3A.
People move for the admission of 3A.
Response.
No objection.
3A is admitted.
People ask to publish 3B.
Go ahead.
Mr. Johnson, this is the interior of the event space?
Correct.
Judge, people move to admit 3B,
No objection, Your Honor. 3B is admitted.
and I would ask to publish 3C.
Go ahead.
Judge, people move to admit 3C.
No objection, Your Honor. People's 3C is admitted.
Mr. Johnson, just to further orient the jury, the door that you could see in the foreground of that last video, could you explain what that is in relationship to the boat club itself and the event space?
It's a breezeway between the pavilion and the main bar, and it runs the same direction as that camera in the bar. The view,
Okay.
the line of view is so down towards the main club.
All right. And so that's the main access to the pavilion or the event space?
Correct.
And the Swan Boat Club, located in Berlin Township, Newport, Michigan, state of Michigan?
Correct.
No further questions for this witness, Judge.
Cross.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Sir, you're in charge of maintaining the parking lot roadway,
Correct.
so when it's not in a good shape, you're the one responsible to take care of it.
Was it in good shape at the time?
When it's not in good shape, you're the one responsible to take care of it.
Correct.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Any redirect?
Not on that issue.
May this witness be excused.
From the people, yes.
Thank you. You may sit.
Thank you.
Next witness.
Judge, people will call Denise Robinson.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Ma'am.
Right this way. Watch your step. Okay. Make sure the chair doesn't fall off there.
Okay, thank you.
Would you state your full name and then spell your last name for us, please?
Denise Roberts, Roberts.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Roberts, are you familiar with the Swan Boat Club?
Yes, I am.
And were you actually there on April 20th of 2024?
Yes, I was.
Why were you at the Swan Boat Club on that day?
For my great-nephew's 3rd birthday party, Stenson.
Stenson, that is...
Stetson.
And so your niece is
Kristin.
Kristin Sigler?
Yes.
Okay. And that is her son?
Yes, it is.
Approximately what time did you arrive at the party on that day?
1 o'clock.
Can you please, for the jury, explain or describe the party prior to the crash?
It was set up as a circus party. You thought you were walking into a live circus. She had a popcorn machine set up for the kids. She had cotton candy, all kinds of little cups to put candy and stuff in, make their own little candy baskets. She had games and activities for the kids. She had a bouncy house. She had a face painter, a stilt walker, a balloon maker. She also had girls doing big bubbles for them. And she had food set up for them for like walking tacos and hot dogs, like on a rolling machine to keep them warm. She had decorations on the ceiling.
Were there a lot of people at this party?
Yeah, I would say approximately 50 or 60 people.
What percentage do you think were children?
Oh, probably 25, 30, I think, right around there.
And do you, what do you remember from the crash?
I was standing there talking to my sister-in-law, and all of a sudden I heard a loud boom. And all I remember saying is, WTF.
And do you think you lost consciousness?
Yes.
What do you remember when you came to?
I remember hearing a voice behind me saying, let's set her up in the chair. I couldn't at first recognize the voice, but then it started coming to me, and it was my nephew. And my ears and my focus started coming in, and my husband had my arms, and he was helping my nephew set me up, and I said, do not put me in the chair. Let me sit here on the floor because my back hurts too bad.
And were you injured on that day?
Yes, I was.
Do you know what injuries you incurred?
I incurred 4 fractured ribs, 2 fractured scapulas, which are your shoulder blades. I had a slight concussion, PTSD, anxiety, and I'm having problems right now with my neck from it. And I'm supposed to get an injection, a second injection in my C5, C6, and see if that helps. Otherwise, my doctor wants to do a 3-level fusion in my neck.
Did you know the defendant prior to that day?
No, I did not.
Did you speak with the defendant on that day?
They set her in a chair when they got her out of the car, and they set her in a chair next to me, and she said a couple of times, "What happened? I passed out." And one of my nephews yelled, "Shut the F up, you lying bitch, you're drunk."
No further questions, Judge.
Cross.
You never met my client before that day, am I correct?
Correct.
And you don't know what type of medical, physical, neurological conditions she had prior to that date, am I correct?
Excuse me, I can't hear you.
Oh, I apologize. Let me move a little closer. You don't know
Any type of neurological condition that she was being treated for prior to that day, am I correct?
You're correct.
And you're very upset with the injuries that occurred. Would you agree?
With my injuries?
Sure.
Yes, I am. I've been being
I don't-
treated for
I don't-
10 and a half months for them.
There's no question before you, but I have no other questions.
Any redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor.
May this witness be excused.
People, as far as people are concerned, yes,
All
Judge.
right, thank you. You may stand. Next witness.
Judge, people will call Patricia Rath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Ma'am, right this one. Watch your step and make sure the chair doesn't roll off of there, okay? I got you. All right.
Miss, if you would state your full name and then spell your last name for us.
My name is Patricia Rath, and it's R-A-T-H-S.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Mrs. Rath. Are you a member of the Swan Boat Club?
No,
Have you ever been to the Swan Boat Club?
only on that day.
Okay, when you're referring to that day, are you referring to April 20th, 2024?
Yes,
Why were you at the Swan Boat Club that day?
it was my great-nephew's 3rd birthday party,
And who's your great-nephew?
Stetson Molkowski.
And then how is he related to you?
His mother, Tweety, is my niece,
Okay, and what is Tweety's real name?
Kristin Sigler.
All right, thank you. Can you describe the Stetson's birthday party for us?
Oh, when we got there and we walked in, it was just magical. It was beautiful. It was like a three-ring circus. It was all set up. There were tables when we first walked through the door, and then at the other end of the building, she had a bubble lady and hula hoops, and against the back wall they had games where the kids could play the games and win prizes. She had a face painter over in the corner, and then they had a bunch of things where the kids could take pictures, you know, like stick their head through the thing and get pictures. And I got there kind of early, and as the kids came, and they were just having a blast, running around. And then outside there was a big bounce house for the kids too. And it was a good day. It was the kids were having a great time.
You mentioned you got there early. Do you recall what time you got there?
No.
Okay. Do you know how many people were there approximately, if you can recall?
I don't recall, but the room was full.
Okay.
The tables were full.
Were some of those attendees children?
Yes.
Okay. A good number of them?
Many children.
At some point, did the party come to a stop?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me what you remember about that?
I heard an explosion, like a big boom, and I thought we'd been bombed. It was a loud noise. I didn't know what had happened. Apparently, I got hit in the head with something. I still have a dent in the top of my head. I was passed out. When I came to, I could hear my son saying, "Mom, Mom, are you okay?" He sounded like he was like a million miles away.
At some point, did you come to know what happened?
He got me up and put me in a chair, and it was all chaos. I mean, there was stuff everywhere, still floating, I guess, in the air. It was, people were screaming, my kids, I'm hurt. It was just total chaos.
Ms. Rath, prior to April 20th of 2024, did you know Marshella Chidester?
No.
At some point during that incident, you mentioned you were put into a chair. Did you come into contact with Marshella Chidester?
Yes, they had set her down in a chair, like right by us, because when I was in the chair, my sister-in-law was on the floor right next to me, and she was in the chair on the other side of her. Before this even happened, my sister-in-law was standing at a table to my right. When I woke up on the floor, she was laying on the left side of me, on her back, and I was on my face. And when I came to, I thought I was blind. Everything was black. I couldn't see anything. And then I could gradually see some light, and then I could see some movement, figures, and then my vision did come back, and I could tell it was people, and I could see everything. It was very scary.
And you indicated, I believe it was your sister-in-law. Who is that?
Denise Roberts.
Okay. And you kind of mentioned it, but prior to, well, at some point did you realize whether or not a bomb had gone off?
Eventually I saw the car in the building.
Okay. A car came through the wall, right?
Yes.
Okay. And at some point prior to the car coming through that wall, can you just clarify, where were you sitting in relation to where the car entered the building?
I was sitting at a table. I think there was another set of tables, like the two sets of tables, two rows. I think there was another set of tables in front of us, and the car came through the wall right behind me. If she would have came 2 feet to the right, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
And not to jump back and forth, Ms. Rath, but to take you back to a moment ago when you stated that the defendant was seated, it sounds like in a chair next to you, is that right? Okay, and did you have any interaction with her when she was sitting next to you?
I didn't talk to her at all, but I can still hear it in my head, and she kept saying, "I passed out! I passed out!" And then she would look at my sister-in-law and she'd say, "Are you hurt?" And then she would go back to that scream, "I passed out!"
Did you have any direct interaction with her?
No, I never spoke to her.
Did you incur any injuries as a result of this incident?
In the beginning, I had bad headaches, nausea, ringing in my ears, blurry vision. When they took me to the hospital, I had a concussion. I've got a TBI. I now have PTSD, severe anxiety, panic attacks, but the biggest problem I have is my memory loss.
When you say TBI, what do you mean by that?
Traumatic brain injury.
That's all I have for you, Ms. Rath. Thank you very much.
Cross-examine.
Thank you. Ma'am, did you ever meet my client prior to that day?
I can't hear you.
Did you ever meet my client prior to that day?
No, I didn't.
You don't know what her medical condition, neurological condition prior to that day, to be
I have
fair.
no idea.
All right, thank you. And how are you related to Tony?
Tony is my son that was at the party with me, and we had my grandson with us too, who's 7.
Okay. And do you know if Tony knows me at all?
Yes.
How does he know me?
I don't know. He just told me he knows you. I don't know.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Anything further?
Nothing, Judge.
May this witness be excused.
I'll be the people's behalf, yes, Judge.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. You're excused.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our afternoon break. All right, you may be seated. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Your next witness, Mr. Lawrence.
You got a people called Jason Wyckland?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do. Sir. Watch your step and make sure
If you would state your name and spell your last name for us, please.
Jason Wyckland, W-Y-C-K-L-A-N-D.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Wyckland, are you a member at the Swan Boat Club?
No, I'm not.
Have you been there before?
A couple times with family.
Were you there on April 20th of 2024?
Yes, I was.
Why did you go to the Swan Boat Club on that day?
It was a grandson's party.
Your grandson's party?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you know about what time you would have arrived?
I think it was pretty early, so between 1 and 2 o'clock, it was around there.
Can you describe for the jury what the party was like prior to the crash?
Fun, happy, kids were laughing, playing, enjoying ourselves.
Were there a lot of people present?
There was quite a few people there.
And what do you remember from the crash?
Just standing there, and then I heard a big explosion.
Did you, to your knowledge, did you lose consciousness?
No, I didn't.
Did you sustain any injuries on that day?
No, I didn't.
And after the crash, what did you see?
The dust in any way.
And at some point, did you approach the vehicle that had crashed through the building?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Which side of the car did you approach on?
From the driver's side.
And was the car door closed when you approached? The driver's side door closed?
Someone was trying to get it open and couldn't, so I grabbed it and gave it a big yank, pulled it open.
It was harder to open than a normal car door?
Yeah.
And what did you see when you opened the car door?
I seen Marshella in the driver's seat there, fumbling around. I shut off the car and put it in gear.
So when you say you saw Marshella, was she awake?
Yes.
Okay. And did she say anything to you?
No, I was yelling for her to get out the car.
Okay. Was she doing anything?
Just trying to reach down in between the seat looking for something.
Did you notice anything about her? Anything else about her at that time?
Yeah, she was drunk.
Did you get Miss Chidester out of the car?
Yes, I did.
Was anybody else there at that time?
There was another person that was there. I can't remember who it was, but the one that helped me open the door. We walked her to the back of the vehicle.
Okay. And after you got Miss Chidester out of the car, what did you do next?
I heard a baby cry, and I looked underneath the vehicle, and I yelled for a jack. Couldn't find a jack, so I looked on the ground, and there was 2x4s, and there was a couple of us there that grabbed the 2x4 and lifted the vehicle, and Tweety, Kristin, climbed underneath the car and grabbed the baby out.
Did you know Marshella Chidester prior to this?
No, I didn't.
No further questions, Judge.
Cross.
Thank you, Judge. Are you sure, sir, that you helped my client out of the car and it wasn't Sean Ulrich?
I was there. I was there. Yes, I did grab her out of the car.
You did not?
Yes.
A gentleman by the name of Sean
There was two
Ulrich.
of us.
Okay, so he was there too?
Yeah, we helped her out the car.
Okay. And do you know any of the medical history of my client neurologically?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your honesty. You knew that my client's vehicle went through the building and went in 25 feet approximately. Do you
Yes.
agree?
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And my client, she didn't seem like she had it all together. Do you agree? Is that a yes or a no?
Give me a chance to answer.
Okay.
I really couldn't say that, you know.
Okay. Would you agree that somebody goes through a building at whatever speed, 25 feet into the building, that somebody might not have all their faculties as if I enter a courtroom, walk in here?
Yeah, that's possible.
Oh, it's possible? Okay. All right, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Any redirect?
Briefly, Judge, thank you. Mr. Wyckland, you testified that you believe the defendant was drunk when you got out of the car. What led you to believe that?
When I reached in the vehicle and shut the car off, I could smell alcohol on her.
And when you say you shut the car off, so when you opened the door, the car was still on.
Yes.
Do you know if the car was still in drive?
Yes.
Okay, no further questions, Judge.
May I have a follow-up, Your Honor? Sir, their party, this party that was going on, there were a lot of people there?
Yes, there was.
Okay, a lot of adults?
Adults and kids.
Kids and adults?
Yes.
Okay. Was there any drinking going on there? Alcoholic drinking?
There was a couple people. That was about
Only
it.
2 people out of all those people were
There was a
drinking?
few. I didn't really pay attention to all that. Who
Okay.
was?
Did the bartender seem like she was busy? Or did you not pay attention?
I didn't pay attention. I was in and outside.
And when the car went in, did everything get all tossed everywhere? Tables, plates, cups? Did that all get tossed? Was there a total mess? We saw some videos earlier. Was it a total mess?
Yes, it was.
Okay, all right. No other questions?
Any follow-up on that?
No, Judge.
May this witness be excused?
Yes, Judge.
Thank you. You may step down. Next witness.
Judge, we're going to call Sgt Michael Bolmia.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Sir.
Sergeant, would you state your full name and spell your last name for us, please?
My name is Sgt Michael Bolmia, Michael-Bolmia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Judge. Sergeant, how are you employed?
I'm a police officer with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office
How long have you been in that position?
for 20 years, sir.
Did you have prior law enforcement experience?
No, sir.
Your entire career has been with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Do you hold all of the training, education, certification necessary to be a peace officer in the state of Michigan?
Yes, I do.
And were those up to date on April 20th of 2024?
Yes, they were.
Were you working on April 20th of 2024?
Yes, I was.
What was your assignment on that date, if you recall?
I was the Days B shift supervisor.
Can you explain to the jury what Days B shift supervisor means?
Our road patrol is broken up into 4 platoons, 2 days and 2 nights. There's an A platoon, a B platoon, both for the day shift and the night shift.
And so as the supervisor, it's your role to manage?
To supervise all the deputies that work the road on that given shift.
And what is road patrol?
We are the division of the Sheriff's Office that responds to calls for service. If you call 911 or if there's a traffic crash, you're a victim of a larceny, we're the ones that come to your home and respond to your call for service.
And in your role as supervisor, are you on the road in the squad car? Or are you behind a desk?
Occasionally I have some administrative paperwork to handle, but the majority of my shift is spent in a patrol car going from call to help other deputies out.
And were you dispatched to Swan Boat Club on April 20th, 2024?
Yes, I was.
And do you recall what that dispatch was?
Dispatch relayed that a car had just crashed into a building at the Swan Boat Club. They said it was a dark-colored SUV, and then several people were injured and or trapped underneath the vehicle.
How did you respond to that dispatch call?
I was in the area of North Dixie Highway and I-75. I responded down North Dixie Highway to Trombley, Blanchett. I don't know exactly all the roads, but the most direct route.
And do you know approximately what time you would have arrived on scene?
It was approximately 3:15.
So about 3:15 in the afternoon?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What did you observe when you arrived at the Swan Boat Club?
When I arrived at the boat club, there was several people laying on the ground in need of medical help. There was also a large hole in the side of the building at the Swan Boat Club.
To your knowledge, were you the first law enforcement officer on scene?
Yes, sir.
And were there other first responders when you had arrived?
Just before my arrival, several firefighters had arrived on scene to help provide medical care.
And at some point, did you enter the boat club?
Yes, I did, sir.
How did you enter the boat club?
I entered through the hole in the side of the building.
This is the hole that the car created?
Yes, sir.
What did you see when you entered the boat club?
I observed more people either laying on the ground or in need of medical care. There also was a dark-colored Ford Edge that was in the northeast side of the building.
Was anybody in the vehicle when you arrived?
No, sir.
And did you interact with the defendant at some point?
Yes, I did, sir.
How did you come to interact with the defendant on that day?
I asked several witnesses around if where the driver was at, and they pointed to the driver who was sitting in a folding chair in the building.
And at some point, did the defendant identify herself as the driver to you?
Yes, sir.
And do you see that person in the courtroom today who identified herself as the driver?
Record should reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
What did you do next, Sergeant?
I assisted the driver to her feet, and then we walked out to my patrol car.
And while you were walking out to the patrol car, did you have any interaction with the defendant?
Yes, I did, sir.
Okay. And at your patrol car, what did you do then?
On the way to the patrol car, I asked her several questions. I asked her if she was injured or if she needed any medical help. Before I put her in the back of my patrol car, I asked her again if she needed any medical assistance. She said no. I asked her name. She identified herself by name. And then I secured her in the back of my patrol car.
And are you issued a body-worn, what is referred to commonly as a body-worn camera?
Yes, sir.
Or a body cam? And were you wearing it on that day?
Yes, sir.
And was it functional and operating properly on that day?
Yes, sir.
Have you had an opportunity to review the footage from your body-worn camera?
Yes, I have.
Is it a fair and accurate depiction of what you saw on that day?
Yes, it was.
All right, Judge. I don't know how the court wants to do this. We are going to move.
Apparently, counsel is okay with showing it before it gets moved for admission.
Okay, so I will request to present that to the jury.
What is the number?
This is a proposed People's Exhibit 4, Sergeant Bolmia's body cam.
All right.
What happened? I passed out. Okay. Have you been feeling ill or anything like that? Yes. What kind of medical conditions do you have? Seizures. Seizures? Okay. Were you here for the party? No. What were you out here at the boat club for? Are you I was just coming down here. Okay. Oh my God, this is terrible. So you take medications for seizure, you said? Have you been drinking it all day? A little bit, yes. Okay. When's the last time you had something to drink? Probably half an hour ago. Half an hour ago? What did you drink? Wine. Wine? Okay. What's your name, hon? Marshella. Marshella what? Chidester. Chidester, okay. You don't have any weapons on you, do you? No. All right, I'm just going to leave you back here just for a little bit, okay? Okay. All right. Do you need to see any medical attention right now? Okay. I'm going to roll down this window over here and just get you some air, okay? Okay.
Sergeant, is the time and date stamp correct on that video?
Yes, sir.
All right. Judge, I would again move to admit People's Proposed Exhibit 4.
People's 4 is admitted.
Sergeant, did you have any other interactions with the defendant on that day?
No, sir.
No further questions, Judge.
Cross. Thank you. May this witness be excused?
Yes, Judge.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next witness.
At this time, the people would call Detective Madison Fleck.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Ma'am, watch yourself and make sure the chair is
Detective, if you would state your full name and then spell your last name for us, please.
My name is Madison Fleck, M-A-D-I-S-O-N, last name Fleck, F-L-E-C-K.
Thank you, Judge. Detective, are you currently employed?
Yes,
Where are you employed?
the Monroe County Sheriff's Office.
And what do you do there?
Currently, I'm a detective assigned to the property and evidence room. Previous to and during this call, I was a road patrol deputy.
And you said, are you referring to April 20th, 2024?
Yes.
And what training, if any, did you receive in order to be a road deputy as of April 20th, 2024?
I had an associate's degree in criminal justice as well as the Basic Police Academy.
Prior to April 20th of 2024, approximately how long had you been a road deputy?
I think it was about 3 years.
You said 3 years? And prior to this, did you have any law enforcement experience?
No.
And are you currently in good standing with the state of Michigan?
Yes.
Okay, and you have all the requisite training to be a peace officer in the state of Michigan, right?
Yes.
You indicated that on April 20th of 2024, you were a road deputy. Obviously, you were working on that date?
Correct.
And at some point, did you get called to the Swan Boat Club?
I heard the call on the radio from dispatch and decided to respond.
Okay, and what did you hear on dispatch, if you can recall?
That there was a vehicle crash at the Swan Creek Boat Club and that there were subjects pinned underneath the vehicle.
Okay, and did you end up responding there?
Yes.
What time did you respond to the scene, if you can recall?
Around 15, 16 hours, maybe a little bit later than that. It was definitely after Sgt Bolmia and Deputy Schmidt.
And for those of us who are not familiar with military time, what is 15, 16 hours?
3:16 p.m.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
3:16.
Upon your arrival, what did you observe?
It was chaos. It was apparent that a vehicle had driven through the building. There was multiple first responders giving aid to people that were injured during the crash. Chaos, loved ones trying to find the victims.
Did you respond to assist any particular individuals?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and at some point did you learn who those individuals were?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and who did you directly respond to?
I believe it was Diane Medina, Denise Roberts, another subject, I believe her first name's Leah, and anybody else that was in that room that needed immediate attention.
In regard to Miss Medina, do you recall what was her demeanor or what was her positioning when you arrived and when you approached her?
She was on the ground near the bar. She was complaining of hip pain, possibly thought she had broke something in her back.
And in regard to Miss Stith, Leah Stith, where was she and what was her demeanor?
She was also near the bar. She was in, I think, too much pain to respond to questions, and she appeared to be suffering from back injuries as well.
Okay. And you also mentioned Miss Denise Roberts, correct?
Yes.
What interaction did you have with her?
She was sitting up in a chair and complaining, I think, of head pain. Advised she was at the table closest to where the car impacted the building.
On April 20th, 2024, were you issued what's commonly referred to as a body-worn camera?
Yes.
Are you aware, was it in working order on that date and time?
Yes.
And have you had the opportunity to review the footage from your body-worn camera on that date and time?
Most of it.
I'm sorry?
Most of it.
Most of it? Okay. And the portion that you did review, did that accurately depict what you, fair and accurate representation of what you observed on that day?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, I'm going to proffer for the court what is marked as People's Exhibit 5. If I may just go ahead and play that, Judge?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Deputy, I'm going to direct you to the screen.
This gentleman, this gentleman is on the floor. You guys are talking about. I just got one detector back there. I don't even know. She's 18. Yeah, I still have it. On my
Is there anybody? I got these things information. I'm going to start looking at getting their information and then there's no one about Nope, just try to stay out of the way of everybody and help where you can.
I'm most critical. I've attended to all three of them. So that's
She's allergic to amoxicillin. Are you really? I think they want to leave her right for right now, just because. It should. That's not good enough. Okay. All right. Ma'am, I'm gonna get, were you in here when it happened? No, did you witness it at all? Okay. Medina. No. Is it hurt pretty much everywhere right now? Okay. Just try to take some deep breaths, okay? As deep breaths as you can. Yeah. As deep breaths as you can. Well, they're getting this guy, and then you're right. You're coming up next.
Try not to move your hips, Ben. Okay?
Okay. They gotta get her, and then these go right in front, so we'll keep her right there. You need any help back there? Okay. Sir, is anybody fighting information yet?
No.
Were you witness to the crash?
I was in the bar, I just heard it and it came in so I hit out. So, but I didn't see when it actually happened.
Okay. Okay. Once you start getting all other people's information.
Deputy, you indicated that you watched most of your body cam. What was one of your roles during your time at this scene to obtain personal information?
Yeah, I wanted to make myself useful.
Okay, and as I likely noticed, there were portions of audio that were missing through this body cam. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that was because of private information of the individuals you were interviewing. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Your audio was working on your body-worn camera, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But based off what we just saw here, Detective, I'm sorry, I keep calling you Deputy. Detective, was this a fair and accurate representation of what you saw on that date and time?
Yes.
And if you look up in the right-hand corner, if you can see, and based off your review of the video, to your knowledge, the date and time stamp on the video are correct, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Judge. Oh, I'm so sorry, Judge. I do have to admit, Peoples
Response?
Exhibit 5.
People's 5 is admitted. Cross? No cross. Thank you. You may be excused. Next witness?
Judge, at this time, that was People's 8th witness for the afternoon. We only had 6 booked. We managed to get 2 more here. We don't have any other witnesses that we're ready to present right now.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call it a day. It's been a long day anyway, so I'm sure nobody's really sad about this, except me, because I want to get things going. But nonetheless, we're going to break for the evening.
System's rigged, man, it's time to break free. Eyes wide open, gotta see what I see. Standing on the front lines, fighting for the truth. Lift the veil of lies, it's time to be the proof. Take a stand, don't you back down. Raise your voice, let's shake the town. We're the voice.